Download the AllStar app. Make your picks for UFC fights, challenge your friends, level up and win prizes. Link in description. Get it now. Francis, man. Let's put this on the screen. So Francis has been a free agent for I don't even know how many months now. And it seems like people are not biting on his negotiation tactics, right? We've seen BKFC owner come out and say that, he's asking for too much money. Other promotions have thrown offers at him and we've heard nothing, right? I think Bellator has shown interest, PFL won championship as well. And those promotions have been kind of tight-lipped on like what their situation is with Ngannou. And now Floyd Mayweather's out here talking about he wants to promote Francis Ngannou's boxing debut. And I think this is probably going to be the most likely outcome of him returning because MMA ROI, I talk about return on investment. And I think the amount of money that Francis Ngannou is asking for, the promotion is not going to make back. They're going to lose money on Francis Ngannou. So the only logical thing is to have him box someone, right? And Mayweather is the king, right? He's the king of the boxing pay-per-views, and him joining Mayweather Promotions is actually a match made in heaven for what Francis Ngannou wants. Is he going to make the money that is Floyd Mayweather going to make the money, right? Because I don't know. We haven't seen him box, right? We don't know what type of matchups that he could bring him, right? Because it seems like I saw an article about how Francis Ngannou actually leaving the UFC right now is the worst time to leave because boxing is tied up in the heavyweight division with all these like super fights happening, and he's probably not going to be able to find the right opponent. Deontay Wilder has been talking about he wants to fight Francis, but that's just talk, right? There's a lot of talk. What do you see in this, Pat?
Yeah, no. So this has been an interesting thing because I think part of it is being pushed by MMA companies or certain people out there in the media that are favorable with certain MMA companies saying like, "Oh, he messed up. He should come back. He really screwed up." But like, here's the thing: he split with the UFC when in January. Like, it's still this year. So like, max, you're talking 4 months that he split with the UFC. And yeah, things are tied up right now with the announcement. They're trying to do like a tournament or whatever, like super fight with Wilder and Joshua and Usyk and Fury going on. I don't know that will happen, right? They've been trying to do Usyk Fury for God knows how long. So it's kind of all over the place. But Ngannou 100% still made the right call, in my opinion, because one, we're still talking about him, right? We're talking about, like, what if he fought Sergey? What if, what's he doing? Like, even just checking in on him, he's still making news. He's not completely irrelevant. And two, all he has to do is fight one time as a headliner of a boxing promotion that does just decent numbers. Doesn't have to be a big pay-per-view, doesn't have to be a huge thing. If he fights Wilder, or he fights, someone in the heavyweight division that's like a name and can get even just a certain amount of buys generated, doesn't have to be anything crazy, he's going to make more money than he ever did in the UFC in one fight. And this was what he was always talking about, where he wanted to do boxing. It was something he wanted to do while under UFC contract. They said no, it wasn't going to be a McGregor situation. Okay. He is made, he's built up enough, and he is made to do boxing with his power, right? Like, he could go out there and lose, that's fine, but he's going to get the money, and that's what he cares about right now. Like, that's clear. The PFL, One, Bellator, they never fielded or offered anything. In my opinion, I doubt any of them offered anything close to what he was looking for in good faith, and most likely didn't match what the UFC was originally going to offer him, right? So why would he take those? Like, if you're not going to match what the UFC was offering while he was on his last fight of his contract, why in the world would you take down one championships, Bellator, PFL? Like, why would you do that? Doesn't make any sense. So I think it's just going to take a while, and that's fine. But I think he's still made the right call. And as of right now, I think he's still going to end up making more money than he ever did in the UFC. Like, which is the goal. Like he said, ROI. Like he's going to, even if it takes him a year to sit out and then get in the ring, if he gets in the ring once, he makes more money than he ever did in the UFC.
I would like to see Mayweather sign him, but kind of build him,
Yeah.
build him, like get him fights that he's going to get paid, probably more than he's going to get paid for any fight that he takes in the UFC or any other promotion, but then build upon it. Don't jump into the deep end and fight Wilder. Get him like a mid-tier boxer, someone that he could, because that's how boxing works, right? They put you into a fight where you could have a 90% chance of winning, especially with the power that you have. Get a highlight reel knockout, get another one, and maybe after 2 fights, right? Then you take on somebody that's a contender. Maybe you get the Wilder fight, because it's hard for me to see Ngannou just jump in and fight Tyson Fury. It's just hard for me to see that. You know what I mean? I don't know why
Yeah.
it's hard for me to see him just jump in and fight Wilder, because why only take one payday when you could get 4 or 5 paydays?
Well, because there's risk, right? Like the key is if he goes and he fights Wilder right away, right? That's guaranteed money. That's money in the bank. He could get his lights knocked out. It could be terrible. It's money in the bank. He goes and fights a mid-level guy, and that mid-level guy beats him. Then suddenly the hype train's dead. Look at Clarissa Shields, right? They've been trying to build up Clarissa Shields in PFL, right? Like they were trying to build her up or whatever, and then she lost. She struggled, and then she lost, and like now all of a sudden, I haven't seen, I haven't seen her promoted at all. Like it's risky. Like whereas you have Clarissa Shields go in there and fight someone bigger right away. Like, I mean, I remember I was at UFC 245 in the media room when she came back there and they were talking about having Shields fight Nunes, which would have been a disaster. But like it again was like hey, like there's interest here. But the minute she lost and she struggled, like it's over. And so that's the thing is maybe Ngannou is as good as we think on the hand and has as heavy hands as we think, right? And he goes out there and he's able to win a couple of fights and then earn his way in, but maybe he's not. Like, I mean, look, that's part of the reason why, Jake Paul has been smart building and fighting, Ben Askren and Woodley, guys that like aren't real challenges, and using that to build his name is because then when he gets to, the fight where he loses it, okay, like he loses against Tommy Fury, like, well, okay, that was rough, but it was close, and I've got enough of a build. I'm gonna rebuild. I'm gonna fight Nate Diaz. That's another real name, right? Quote unquote in the sport. I don't know. I get why Ngannou's going straight for the cash cow, because if you make one mistake, it's over, and then you're never going back to MMA too, because you mess up in boxing, right? Like say you lose to some unknown heavyweight in boxing. Like you've lost all your leverage. It's all gone.
And it's like they have no interest in you once you go and lose in boxing outside of McGregor, because he fought the greatest of all time. And it seems like a lot of people are putting Ngannou on the pedestal as McGregor. And I think that's an illusion, because McGregor was like, at that point, McGregor might have been higher up in popularity than Mayweather, and that's what made that match, that's why he was able to come in without no boxing experience and take that fight, because he basically was the A side. And that's why Dana White wanted to come in and promote it, because he knew that he had the A side power in that deal, right? In this one, Francis's popularity is there, but it's not that McGregor level, man. Like there's a huge difference. Those are different planets right there, McGregor and Ngannou, right?
Francis wasn't even the most popular UFC fighter when he left. Like Adesanya and Jones still had bigger draws than him. Like, yeah, it's
so you could argue that's why it's hard for me to that's why it's hard for me to believe that Ngannou will go out there and fight a Wilder like immediately. I think that he needs to have like some kind of warm-up type of fight to show that he's able to. do something.
I think you're right. I think the thought is right. Wilder is the perfect target because he's already lost to Fury multiple times. If he goes out there and loses again to, or I think they're talking about him fighting Joshua, right? So let's say he goes out there and Joshua beats him. Like then Wilder, like you said, in boxing, you lose a couple of times and suddenly it's Wilder's built enough of a name for himself that he'll be around as long as he wants, but you need a bounce back. And what's a better bounce back than going out there and saying, "Oh, I'm going to fight Francis Ngannou, man. Like he's a real threat. Like he's all right." Like similar to what Connor did. Connor loses a couple times, then he goes out and he fights Cerrone at welterweight. And it's like, I love Donald Cerrone, but I mean, Connor was always going to outmatch him like pretty easily. And you take a step back and you get something just to get a win so that you have he's back. That's what people were saying. You remember that when he beat Cerrone and everybody was like, "Oh, McGregor's back." It's like, are you sure, man? It's just Donald Cerrone, like an older, out of weight class Donald Cerrone. Like, are you all right? But yeah, it's that's kind of the name of the game. So I think that's why Ngannou was probably hoping for that. He was probably hoping that Wilder wasn't going to fight Joshua and that he could kind of be that bounce back fight for Wilder. Especially if Wilder loses to Joshua, I think Ngannou's probably happy because it gives him a real opportunity to step in there, and that's a real clash of worlds, right? Like, okay, that's a perfect fight for Wilder because he's not fighting for a title anytime soon. Why not make it? So, yeah, I don't think he's going to fight Fury or anything like that, unless Fury just really wants to go Mayweather's route and do exhibitions. If that's the case, if he's really retired and he's doing that, then sure. But otherwise, it's going to be yeah, that's what Ngannou's hoping for. We'll see what happens, but I get it. I get why he chose to do what he did.
I just wonder if Ngannou wants a career in boxing. Like, is he just there for a quick flash in the pan, or does he want to kind of have a 5-year stint in boxing? Like, that's, to me, I don't know that for sure. Like, he hasn't really come out, and has he said anything to that effect?
I mean, he said he wanted to box and he's always wanted to box, but there's a big difference between wanting to and then going out there and getting a career out of it, right? Like, I think it'll depend on his success. Like, if he goes out there and let's say he just bombs Deontay Wilder, knocks him out cold, right? Then Ngannou's got a 5-year career in boxing if he wants it, probably. Like, he'll be viewed as a guy that's a real threat in the division and can fight other heavyweights and all that stuff, just because of that win alone. But I have no idea. I would lean, because he's getting older. He's still relatively young, but like I would lean he probably doesn't. He's probably much more like, all right, I'm going to go ahead and make my money, and then I would guess he tries to go back to MMA in some capacity. But we'll see. I mean, depends on what he's really looking for, because this is the time to strike to go get the money in boxing, and then once he gets that big money fight, it's up to him what to do. But
yeah, man, it's always been interesting to follow like how this all plays out, you know what I mean? And hopefully they get something signed soon, because it seems like every day it's moving, it's ticking. It's like your value is dropping,
right.
dropping, and that's just the reality of the sport.
It is, but then again, like that's what they say, but it depends, because look at McGregor, look at Diaz, right? They sat out for years at a time, and everybody thought Diaz is irrelevant. Okay, he lost to McGregor. He hasn't done anything. He came back. He's boxing Jake Paul and gonna probably make way more money than anybody in the UFC did.